The cages are empty. The children are gone, and the men in charge are celebrating record profits. A wolf who refused to kill was branded a traitor and cast out. Now he watches the city decay from the shadows, knowing his mercy didn't save anyone, it only bought time. By night, he settles violent disputes in forgotten alleys. By day, he pretends he isn't part of what's coming. Then, a woman finds him. She's invisible by design. She can't fight, she can't shift, but she has the numbers. Proof that the so-called civilized leaders have been selling their own children to humans, turning blood into medicine, pain into profit, and calling it progress. If the truth goes public, humans panic. They hunt the wolves, they wipe them out. If it stays buried, the alphas keep sacrificing children and blame the traitor again. Tonight, two outcasts stand between exposure and extinction. They must convince a crime family built on fear to face the truth it helped bury. Because mercy was never the crime, and someone has been getting rich pretending it was. Rain hit the cracked basement window in uneven bursts. Water gathered along the sill, pooling where the frame had warped years ago. The glass rattled softly with each heavier drop. Dante Vescovo sat at a folding table, shoulders loose, posture relaxed. Two werewolves faced each other across the peeling laminate. The air between them felt tight, charged. Neither looked away. The younger one moved first. He slammed a stack of 20s onto the table. The impact sent a few bills sliding out of line. "That's half of what you owe me, Marco." Marco crossed his arms over his jacket. It was stained and worn thin at the elbows. His hands were big, scarred, knuckles thick from old fights. "Your sister damaged my car," Marco said. "I'm deducting the repairs." Dante picked up the cash. He counted it without looking down. His fingers moved fast, practiced like this was muscle memory. He stopped. $23 short. "Marco," Dante said calmly, "that car was already damaged. I saw it last month." Marco's jaw tightened. A vein jumped at his temple. "You calling me a liar?" Dante set the money back on the table. He pushed it toward the younger wolf with 2 fingers. "I'm calling you desperate. Pay what you owe or find another mediator." Marco's eyes flashed amber, just a flicker. His wolf pushed close to the surface. His nails lengthened into claws and scraped lightly against the tabletop. Dante leaned back in his chair and yawned, slow, deliberate. He checked his watch. The younger wolf grabbed the money and stood. His chair screeched against the concrete floor. "Thanks, Dante." Marco shoved his chair back and headed for the stairs. His boots hit hard with every step. The door slammed behind him, the sound echoing through the small apartment. Dante waited until the footsteps faded completely. Then he pressed his palms to his temples. His head throbbed. The wolf inside him stirred, weak, restless. 5 years without a pack had thinned the bond, made it feel frayed, like a rope worn down to threads. 5 years mediating petty disputes in places the families didn't care about anymore. He stood and walked to the window. His reflection stared back at him, layered over the street outside. Across the road, a bodega sign flickered red and blue. It read, "Open 24 hours," but the O had burned out long ago. Someone stood beneath it. A woman. She was looking straight at his window. Gray coat, buttoned to her throat, dark hair pulled back tight. Rain soaked her shoulders, but she didn't move, didn't flinch when he noticed her. Dante watched her for 3 slow breaths. His wolf pressed against his ribs. Something about her scent carried even through the closed glass. Then she crossed the street toward his building, purposeful, direct. Dante stepped away from the window. He opened a drawer, checked the knife inside, closed it. Then he went to the door and waited. Footsteps climbed the stairs outside, slow, even. They stopped at his door. Dante counted to 3. Then he opened it before she could knock. She stood in the narrow hallway outside his apartment. Rain dripped from the hem of her gray coat. Water pooled on the cracked linoleum beneath her shoes. She didn't seem to notice. Her face was calm, pale but steady. "Dante Vescovo?" she asked. Her voice was quiet, controlled, no tremor. "Depends who's asking." She reached into her coat and pulled out a folded envelope, held it out to him. The paper was dry. She'd kept it protected from the rain. "Someone who knows what you used to be." Dante didn't take it. He studied her instead. No pack markings, no family scent, nothing that tied her to anyone he knew. "I'm not interested in old business." "This isn't old." She stepped forward. One foot crossed the threshold. That was when he caught her scent. Faint, almost human, a trace of wolf buried deep beneath it. Omega. And something else, something missing. The absence sat wrong in his chest, like an echo where the shift should have been. "You can't shift," Dante said. She didn't flinch, didn't look away. "No, I can't." "Then coming here alone is a risk." "I don't have a choice." She pushed the envelope toward him again. Her hand didn't shake. This time, Dante took it. The envelope was thick, heavy with paper. He stepped aside and nodded toward the table. "Come in." She entered and unbuttoned her coat. Underneath, she wore a simple blouse and slacks. Professional, forgettable, the kind of outfit meant to disappear in a crowd. Dante closed the door behind them. He opened the envelope. Photographs, spreadsheets, bank statements. He flipped through them slowly. Transfers between shell companies, numbers in the millions. A corporate name repeated again and again. Vitalis Pharma. Names jumped out at him. Alpha leaders, all 5 ruling families. His own family crest marked several documents. The wolf inside him stirred, low, angry. "Where did you get this?" he asked. "I work for them," she said. "Accounting. They don't notice me." There was no bitterness in her voice, just fact. "They will now." She met his eyes. "I've been copying records for 2 years. They still don't know I exist." Dante set the papers down and turned toward the window. Rain streaked the glass. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to help me prove they're selling children." The words landed heavy. Dante's hands tightened on the windowsill. The wood creaked under his grip. "Selling them to who?" "Vitalis Pharma," she said. "Medical testing, regenerative research. The alphas call it modernization." She pulled a small black USB drive from her pocket. "This has everything. Financial trails, shipping logs, facility locations." Dante turned back to her. "Why me?" "Because 5 years ago, you refused to execute children, and you lost everything for it." The memory flashed sharp and fast. Orders, faces, his refusal. "And you think that makes me a hero?" Her jaw tightened. "I think it makes you the only alpha who might still care." Dante picked up one of the photographs. A glass building, clean, modern, children in gray uniforms standing in a line. "I cared then," he said quietly. "It didn't save anyone. It slowed them down, cost them time, money, years. And they destroyed my life for it." "Yes." She stepped closer. "But they're moving again, fast. Vitalis goes public in 3 weeks. When that happens, humans find out about us. And then? Then everything ends." Dante studied her face. "What's your name?" "Sienna Kate." He let out a slow breath. "Show me everything." She opened her laptop. Sienna set her laptop on the table. She had to slide aside empty coffee cups and folded newspapers to make room. The screen came to life, washing the dim apartment in a pale blue glow. She plugged in the USB drive. A folder opened, then several more, files arranged by date and category, careful, methodical. Dante pulled his chair closer. The legs scraped loudly against the concrete floor. The first document was a contract, Vitalis Pharma, the Vescovo family crest stamped into the corner like a seal of approval, dated 6 years ago. Dante read slowly, supply agreements, renewal clauses, language polished smooth until it barely sounded human. Biological materials, he said. Sienna nodded. That's what they call the children. She clicked to the next file. A spreadsheet filled the screen. Rows of dates, quantities, age ranges, most between 8 and 14. Dante stared at it longer than he meant to. Each line felt heavier than the last. How many? He asked. 312, Sienna said. Her voice stayed level, like she was reading inventory, but her hand shook slightly on the trackpad. Another file opened. Medical reports, charts, notes written in detached clinical language, cell regeneration rates, tissue samples, blood analysis. Dante pushed his chair back and stood. The sudden movement knocked it against the table. He paced to the window and pressed his forehead to the glass. Rain slid down outside, blurring the streetlights. Who signed this? He asked. Sienna scrolled to the bottom of the contract. 5 signatures, one from each ruling family. Antonio Vescovo's name sat second from the top. Your uncle runs the family now, she said quietly. I know. He'd known since the day of his exile. Antonio had smiled when he delivered the sentence. They didn't just take orphans. They took pack children, told the families they were being sent to academies, training programs. She pulled up a photograph. Children in identical gray uniforms stood in front of a sleek glass building. Their faces were blank, hollow. Dante leaned closer. This was taken 3 months ago, outside a Vitalis facility. One face stopped him cold. Dark curls, a small scar above the eyebrow. That's Lucia DeLuca, he said. His voice barely carried. They said she died last year. Sienna didn't look away. She's alive. Dante turned back to the window. His hands trembled. Why come to me? Why not take this to the families? They won't believe me, she said. I'm nobody, an omega who can't shift. She closed the laptop. The room dimmed. But you're Antonio's nephew. You were an alpha. People remember you. They remember I was exiled. Exactly, Sienna said. You have nothing left to lose. Dante turned back toward her. If we do this, we need more than documents. She nodded. I know where they're keeping them. She opened the laptop. Sienna spread a paper map across the table. She had to weigh down the corners with her phone and a coffee cup to keep it from curling back in on itself. The city filled the page. Streets, industrial zones, long stretches of nothing beyond the outer limits. She pointed to a spot just outside the city. Vitalis runs a research facility here, she said. Officially, it's a pharmaceutical warehouse. Dante leaned over the table and studied the location. It sat between 2 highways, cut off from everything else. No houses, no businesses, just empty land and road. Security? He asked. Private contractors, Sienna said. Human. They don't know what's really happening inside. She opened another file on her laptop and turned the screen toward him. Names, schedules, shift rotations. And the children? Dante asked. Separate wing, she said. Underground. She traced a route on the map with her finger. There's a service entrance on the east side. Deliveries come through twice a week, Tuesday and Friday. Dante checked the time on his watch. What day is it? Thursday. He looked at her. You didn't just stumble onto this. No, she said. I've been planning it for months. She reached into her bag and pulled out another USB drive. This one was red. This has access codes, camera timing, and a layout of the interior. I copied it from their security contractor. Dante picked up the drive and turned it over in his fingers. How did you manage that? She shrugged slightly. They don't notice me. She said it like it was a fact of life, not a strength, not a weakness, just how things were. We get in, we find a child who can testify, then we get out. Yes. And after that? Sienna leaned forward, elbows on the table. Then we take the evidence to the families. We make them see what their leaders have done. They won't turn easily, Dante said. The alphas have kept them safe, rich. They've kept them ignorant, Sienna said. That ends when they see their own children. Silence settled between them. Dante's eyes drifted back to the photograph still open on the laptop. Lucia De Luca's face stared back at him, thinner than it should have been, older somehow. "We'll need a car," he said. "I have one. Weapons?" Sienna hesitated. "I'm an accountant, not a soldier." Dante stood and walked to the small closet in the corner. The door stuck when he pulled it open. A duffel bag sat on the floor. He unzipped it. 2 knives, a crowbar, a handgun, half a clip of ammunition. "This is what I have left," he said. Sienna swallowed as she looked at the contents. "Will it be enough?" "It has to be." He zipped the bag shut and slung it over his shoulder. The weight settled against his back. Familiar. "We leave at dawn, before the delivery trucks arrive." Sienna nodded. She gathered her laptop and folded the map carefully before placing it back in her bag. At the door, she paused. "Dante?" "Yeah?" "Thank you." He didn't answer. After she left, the apartment felt too quiet. The rain had stopped. Dante stood alone, his wolf stirring stronger than it had in years. It wanted to hunt. Sienna's car pulled up at exactly 5 a.m. The headlights cut through the dark, sweeping across the trees before she killed the engine. Silence rushed in, thick and sudden. Dante climbed into the passenger seat. The interior smelled like old paper and coffee. She handed him a thermos without a word. He took a sip. Black. Bitter. They drove without talking. Street lights passed in a slow rhythm. The city thinned out, block by block, until buildings gave way to warehouses, then fields, empty stretches of land that felt forgotten. After 30 minutes, Sienna turned onto a gravel road. The car bounced hard over ruts and potholes. The facility came into view. A low concrete building, chain-link fence, floodlights bright enough to turn night into day. Sienna parked behind a line of trees a quarter-mile away and shut off the engine. Dante scanned the place through the windshield. 2 guard towers, 1 guard near the front gate, smoking. The orange glow of his cigarette flared, then dimmed. "Service entrance?" Dante asked. Sienna pointed. "East side, near the loading dock. Fence is weak there." They stepped out of the car. Cold air bit at Dante's face. He shouldered the duffel bag. The weight settled into him, grounding. They moved through the trees, keeping low. Branches snagged their clothes, leaves crunched softly underfoot. The fence came into view, 10 feet high, barbed wire at the top. Sienna stopped where the chain link sagged. Someone had cut it before, badly repaired. Dante pulled wire cutters from the bag and went to work. Each snip rang too loud in his ears. He peeled the opening back. Sienna slipped through first, quick, light on her feet. Dante followed, barely fitting. The wire tore his jacket as he passed. They crouched behind a dumpster near the loading dock. Rotting garbage stung the air. A security camera rotated above the door, red light blinking. "Wait," Sienna whispered. Dante counted the rotation. 12 seconds facing the dock, 8 seconds away. The camera turned. Now. They ran. Sienna swiped a white key card at the door. The lock clicked, green light. They slipped inside. The door hissed shut behind them. The air changed immediately. Sterile, clean, and underneath it, something else. Fear. Dante's wolf surged, pressing hard against his ribs. He could smell them now. Children. Faint, but unmistakable. Sienna moved ahead, checking her phone. "This way," she whispered. They disappeared into the building as the floodlights burned on outside, unaware of what had just slipped past the fence. The hallway inside was bright and white. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, a steady buzz that pressed against Dante's ears. The floor was polished linoleum, too clean, too perfect. Their footsteps echoed even when they tried to move quietly. Dante went first. His hand stayed close to the knife at his belt. He checked every corner before moving forward. Sienna followed close behind. She held her phone low, the interior map glowing faintly on the screen. The light cast sharp shadows across her face. "The stairs should be at the end of this corridor," she whispered. They passed offices with darkened windows. Desks sat untouched, computers slept on standby. A jacket hung over the back of a chair, like someone had stepped away for a moment and never come back. At the end of the hall stood a metal door. Authorized personnel only. Red letters, clean, final. Dante tested the handle. Locked. He pulled the crowbar from the duffel. The metal felt cold and solid in his hands. He wedged it between the door and the frame and leaned in. The lock snapped with a sharp crack. Both of them froze. They listened. No alarm, no shouting, just the hum of lights. Dante pulled the door open. Stairs dropped into darkness. No lights below. He clicked on a small flashlight and started down. Slow, careful. The air grew colder with every step. Thicker, wrong. By the time they reached the bottom, the smell hit him fully. Antiseptic, chemicals, fear. Another corridor stretched ahead. Narrower. Doors lined both sides. Each one had a small reinforced window set at eye level. Dante approached the first door and looked inside. A child lay asleep on a narrow metal bed bolted to the floor. Tubes ran from her arm to a machine that beeped softly beside her. Her skin looked pale, too pale. His chest tightened. Sienna moved to the next door. She looked inside and sucked in a sharp breath. Dante. He joined her. Lucia De Luca sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. Her dark curls were cut short and uneven. Her arms were thin. Bruises marked the inside of her elbows. Dante tried the handle. Locked. He forced it with the crowbar. The lock gave after a second hard pull. The door opened. Lucia turned fast, fear flashing across her face. Then confusion. "Who are you?" she asked. Her voice was hoarse, like she hadn't used it in days. Dante knelt in front of her and set the crowbar down. "I'm Dante Vescovo. I know your father." Her eyes filled. "My father's dead." "No," Dante said. "He's alive, and he thinks you are." She broke then, quiet sobs shaking her shoulders. "They said my family didn't want me. They said I was broken." Sienna knelt beside her. "They lied. We're taking you home." Lucia stood slowly. Her legs trembled. She grabbed the bed frame to steady herself. "There are others, in the other rooms." Dante looked down the corridor. Too many doors. "We can't take everyone," he said. The words hurt to say. Lucia nodded. "Then don't forget us." Footsteps echoed from the stairwell. Heavy, fast. Dante stood and pulled Lucia close. "We need to move," he said. And then the first guard appeared at the end of the hall. The guard froze when he saw them. Black uniform, radio clipped to his belt, one hand already moving. Dante reacted first. He stepped in fast, closing the distance before the man could speak. His wolf surged, lending him speed. Dante struck the guard's wrist. The radio clattered to the floor and skidded across the linoleum. The guard swung back. His fist came in hard. Dante ducked and drove his shoulder into the man's chest. They slammed into the wall. The guard's head hit concrete with a dull thud. The man reached for his weapon. Sienna moved without thinking. She grabbed a fire extinguisher from its mount and swung it with both hands. It connected solidly. The guard crumpled. Dante caught him before he hit the floor and lowered him carefully. The man was breathing, unconscious. "We have to go," Dante said. Alarms wailed. Red lights flashed overhead, painting the corridor in pulses. "They found him," Sienna said. Dante pulled Lucia close and led them back toward the stairs. Lucia stumbled on the third step. Dante caught her arm. "I've got you," he said. They reached the top. Voices echoed from deeper in the building. Boots, shouts. They turned down the main hallway toward the loading dock. 3 guards stepped into view ahead of them. Weapons came up. Dante shoved Lucia and Sienna back around the corner just as gunfire cracked. Sparks flew from the wall where they'd been standing. "This way," Dante said. They ran. Another corridor branched left. Dante took it without slowing. Footsteps thundered behind them. An emergency exit sign glowed ahead. Dante hit the door with his shoulder. It burst open. Cold air rushed in. They were outside. Floodlights snapped toward them. Shouts followed. 3 guards stood near the fence. Dante veered away from them, pulling Lucia along. Sienna stayed close. Gunfire cracked again. Bullets sparked against concrete. One passed close enough that Dante felt the air move. Lucia's legs gave out. Dante lifted her without hesitation and threw her over his shoulder. She was light, far too light. He spotted a gap in the fence near the tree line. "There," he said. They crashed through the opening. Barbed wire tore at Dante's jacket and raked his arm. He ignored it. The trees swallowed them. Flashlights swept behind them. Voices shouted. Dogs barked somewhere in the distance. They didn't stop running. Branches whipped Dante's face. His breath burned in his chest. They burst out of the trees. Sienna's car waited ahead. She unlocked it before they reached it. The lights flashed. Dante put Lucia in the back seat and climbed into the front. Sienna turned the key. The engine caught. They sped onto the road. Headlights appeared behind them. 2 vehicles. "They're following us," Sienna said. "Lose them." She took a hard turn onto a side road. The car fishtailed. Tires screamed. Another turn, then another. After 10 minutes, the road behind them went dark. No headlights. Sienna pulled into a quiet residential street and cut the engine. They sat in silence, breathing hard. Lucia leaned forward from the back seat. "Where are we going?" Dante turned to her. "Somewhere safe. Then we show your father the truth." Lucia nodded. Her eyes closed. She fell asleep almost instantly. Dante brought Lucia to a neutral meeting house in the old district. The building sat between territories, owned by no family. An old warehouse repurposed years ago into a gathering place, neutral ground by long-standing agreement. He sent word to Marco De Luca through an intermediary, a bartender who worked for all the families, someone who knew when to keep quiet. Within an hour, Marco arrived. His car pulled up outside. Doors slammed, footsteps echoed across concrete. Marco entered through the side door with 2 bodyguards behind him. His face was hard, guarded. Then he saw Lucia. The color drained from his face. "Lucia?" His voice cracked on her name. She ran to him, her thin arms wrapped around his neck as he pulled her close, lifted her off the ground. His shoulders shook as silent sobs tore through him. "They told me you were dead," he said into her hair. "I wasn't," she whispered. "They took me." Marco pulled back just enough to look at her, really look. His hands moved over her arms, her face, taking in the bruises, the needle marks, how small she felt. "Who did this?" he asked. His voice was low now, dangerous. Dante stepped forward. "The Alphas," he said, "all 5 families. They sold children to a pharmaceutical company." Marco's eyes flashed amber. His wolf surged close to the surface. "That's not possible." His bodyguards shifted, hands near their weapons. Sienna stepped forward and held out the USB drive. "I have proof," she said. "Contracts, financial records. Your daughter is one of 300. Marco took the drive. His hands shook. He looked down at Lucia. She nodded. "How long?" he asked. 8 months, Lucia said softly. Marco closed his eyes, his jaw tightened. "Send word," he said to one of the guards. "Tell the families to gather at the council hall, tonight." The guard pulled out his phone and started making calls. Marco turned back to Dante. "If you're lying, I'll kill you myself." "I know, and I'm not lying." "Then we're going to war." He said it like a fact, not a threat. Dante nodded. "I know." Marco lifted Lucia again, holding her close. "She needs a doctor." "There's a healer in the 3rd district," Sienna said. "Discreet." Marco nodded. At the door, he stopped and turned back. "Dante." "Yeah?" "Thank you." Then he was gone. The door closed behind them. Silence filled the warehouse. Sienna exhaled slowly. "What do you think he'll do?" "Exactly what he said. Start a war. And when the Alphas find out we took Lucia, they'll come for us." Sienna moved to stand beside him. "Are you ready for that?" Dante looked at her. Really looked. "I've been ready for 5 years." The council hall filled fast. Wolves from all 5 families packed the stone building, voices low and tense. The hall was old, timber beams darkened by age, stone walls that had watched generations argue, threaten, and swear loyalty. At the front, a long table stretched beneath hanging lights. The alphas sat behind it. Antonio Vescovo took the center seat. His posture was relaxed, confident, granite calm carved into his face. The others flanked him: Markov, Chen, DeLuca, Russo. Dante stood alone at the front of the room. Sienna stood beside him. Lucia sat with her father in the second row, cleaner now, fed, still bruised, still too thin. Antonio leaned back in his chair. "You were exiled," he said, his voice carrying easily through the hall. "You have no right to stand here." "I have every right," Dante replied. "You sold our children." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Wolves shifted. Growls rose and died. Antonio's expression didn't change. "You're making accusations without proof." Sienna stepped forward. She connected her laptop to the projector. The screen lit up behind them. Documents filled the wall: contracts, bank statements, shipping logs. The room went quiet as wolves leaned forward to read. Antonio stood. "This is fabricated." His voice stayed steady, but his eyes flickered. "It isn't," Sienna said. "I pulled it from your servers." She clicked to another file. More numbers, more transfers. An alpha from the Markov family leaned forward. "Is that Lucia DeLuca?" he asked, pointing at the screen. Marco stood and guided his daughter forward. "They took her 8 months ago, told me she died." Lucia spoke without raising her voice. "They kept us in a lab. They took our blood. They hurt us." The hall erupted, shouting, chairs scraping, wolves standing. Antonio slammed his hand on the table. "Enough!" Slowly, the room quieted. "We did what was necessary. Vitalis paid us. That money protected all of you. You protected yourselves," Dante said. "Remodernized," Antonio snapped. "We built stability." "You built it on children," Marco said. Antonio's eyes hardened. "And what would you have us do? Hide forever?" "Your future ends in 3 weeks, when the company goes public." The alphas exchanged glances. Antonio didn't deny it. Sienna pulled up a press release dated weeks ahead. "Humans will find out, and when they do, we're finished." Silence spread. Dante stepped forward. 5 years ago, I refused to execute children. Those children were meant for this." The room erupted. Antonio stared at him. "What do you propose?" "We expose Vitalis, we rescue the children, then we disappear." The hall held its breath, waiting. The council argued through the night. Voices rose and fell. Accusations, denials, old grudges dragged into the open. Wolves stood from their seats and spoke over one another until the hall rang with it. Mothers demanded answers. Fathers shouted names. Some wept openly. By the time dawn crept through the high windows, the anger had sharpened into something solid. A decision. Antonio Vescovo stood when the vote was called. He didn't argue, didn't plead. His face stayed carved from stone as the verdict landed. Removed from power. Unanimous. Security stepped forward. Antonio walked past Dante without looking at him. The other complicit alphas followed, faces tight, silent. New leadership formed quickly, not from the old inner circle, from those who still had blood on their hands instead of money. Marco DeLuca was among them. The order came before the sun fully rose. Raid the facility immediately. Dante led. 30 wolves followed him into the night 2 days later, fighters from all 5 families, strong, angry, focused. They moved fast. They came back before dawn. 93 children, not all of them. Some had been moved, some were too weak to survive transport, some had already died, but 93 made it out. 93 lives pulled back from the edge. Vitalis Pharma vanished within a week. Executives fled, accounts emptied, offices locked and abandoned. The press release never came. In the aftermath, the alliance broke apart. Too much had been exposed, too much trust burned away. Families scattered, some went north, some west, some south. Within a month, the city was almost empty of wolves. Dante stood in his basement apartment one last time. Everything he owned fit into a single duffel bag, same as 5 years ago. Sienna waited by the door with her own bag over her shoulder. "Ready?" she asked. He looked around the bare room, peeling paint, cracked window, stains on the ceiling. "I am," he said. Outside, the morning was cold. Frost edged the parked cars. Sienna's sedan was packed tight with boxes and files, evidence that would never see a courtroom. They got in. She started the engine. "Where to?" she asked. Dante looked at the city skyline as they pulled onto the road. Buildings catching the first light, humans waking up, going to work, never knowing how close it had all come. "Somewhere quiet." Sienna smiled, a real one this time. "I can do quiet." They drove through empty streets, past the bodega, the neon sign dark, past the meeting house, silent. They merged onto the highway. The city shrank behind them. Ahead, the road opened wide. Dante felt his wolf settle for the first time in years. No restlessness, no ache. He glanced at Sienna. Her hand rested on the center console, relaxed. He placed his hand beside hers. Their fingers touched. Neither pulled away. The sun rose higher. Golden light filled the car. For the first time in a long time, mercy didn't feel like weakness. It felt like the beginning of something new. They drove on. This story asks a hard question. When the people in power profit from evil, who do you trust? Comment below what you think Dante and Sienna should do next. And if you liked this, stay tuned for our next story about impossible choices.